It's the final painting. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. Music fade out and begin intro. Hello, Doodle Bugs. This is Mary Doodles, and welcome to part 3 of the real-time drawings of Attack of the Dragon. This was a painting I made a time-lapse video of a while ago. And if you want to see parts 1 and 2 of the real-time drawing, I'll put links in the description and on the screen as well, which you can see if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're watching on a pirated platform, thank you. Anyway, after this, we'll go back to the regular tutorials on Thursdays, showing you how to do specific techniques. But I will plan on making more real-time videos in the future and balancing that out with techniques and tutorials like that. So I want to find that perfect balance because I'm noticing people are liking these videos as well, but also have very specific questions about certain ways of drawing and certain things that they're trying. And so I want to make videos addressing those as well. And these real-time videos are great at buying me time to make those videos because, you know, video takes a while and doing weekly videos a little stressful. So I'm glad people like the real-time videos because they actually don't take as long to make anyway. I'm going to get back to some of the questions. I started doing the Q&A in the previous video and people seem to like that. So, and there's a lot of questions going around. So enjoy watching me ink the kitty as put some knowledge in your brain. Big disclaimer, by the way, everything that you're hearing is filtered through me as far as advice on technique and philosophy and life decisions as far as becoming an artist goes. So I've seen comments from people saying, oh, I like watching you do watercolors, but I find it so frustrating and I prefer doing something else. So yeah, follow that natural tendency. I mean, the fun and the challenge of making art of any sort is figuring it out and figuring out what works for you. So, you know, this is all coming from me and what I have found works for me and what I enjoy doing. That may not be the same for you. Maybe hearing my viewpoint and process might help you to figure out your own. But it's not hard, fast laws of art. This is just one way of doing it. I like to look at it as decision-making. There's no, oh God, I'm going to go into art teacher mode real quick. Hang on. There's no right or wrong answer when it comes to art. It's all about what works for you. Yeah, there's no right or wrong. It's really decisions. It's choices. And some choices are better than others. Universally, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, but some choices are better for you personally. Some choices are better for someone else personally. I mean, it's the reason why there's multiple versions of things. It's the reason why there's iPhones and there's Android phones. Some work for some people, some work for other people. And that it's not worth it getting into a debate over which is better because what's better for you might not be better for someone else. So, end rant there. First comment is from Renee saying, quick question, Mary. I am an art history major and I'm hoping to get a job to utilize that degree, whether at a museum or as a teacher. But I was wondering if you have encountered anyone who has been on the same path as I'm currently on and was wondering if they ended up doing what they were doing job-wise. If not, maybe you could possibly shed some light on your take on art history as a whole, or as opposed to working as an actual artist. Thanks for the amazing video, by the way. I love watching your creative process, not to mention the zen quality of watching the watercolors blend together and absorb slowly onto the paper. Smiley face. I did not just add that part. She said that. That's all her words. Thank you, Renee. That's a very interesting question. Yes, to be or not to be, to art or to just think and talk and know about art. That is the question. And that's a very interesting one. So I've noticed in my life of being really into art as well as film and movies. I went to film school and all that good stuff. There's definitely a couple categories of people, and one of the big ones is the creators who make it, and then there's the consumers who enjoy it, and then there's those people in the middle who appreciate the craft, and they don't necessarily do it themselves, or they do it, but for their own personal gain or reasons, and they don't fully pursue it. And like, gosh, there's that snide saying, like, those who can't do, teach. And that's, I mean, that's kind of discouraging. That's kind of taking a nice juicy dump on people who teach, because that's very important to teach people how to make things in a creative way. It's not easy. I will say this from experience. I've recently started coaching improv. I've been doing improv consistently now for 5 years in Santa Monica at the West Side Comedy Theater. And I'm on a house team that's been together. We've won some awards, all that good stuff. And I've just started coaching improv. And that's a whole nother beast. It's a whole nother way of thinking. And I mentioned in the previous video, it's one thing to actually make something from a creative point, but it's another thing to explain what you're doing and to help others understand that process. So, yeah, as far as utilizing art history to teach, whether it's in a school or at a museum, or to help preserve paintings, and honestly, I don't quite know what you would do with that degree. My suggestion, though, is, you mention teaching and you mention museums. So maybe find a museum close to you that has art, an art museum, and reach out to them. Talk to them, see if maybe you could volunteer there, or at least ask questions and interview somebody. People love free labor, by the way. So if you're at a point in your life where you can volunteer an afternoon, a day, or a few hours, it doesn't hurt to reach out to somebody. And that could be in a museum. Maybe you could reach out to an art gallery. And like somebody curating their own gallery, maybe reach out to a school that's known for arts and see if there's a way you can volunteer to help. I think especially a museum might appreciate that. You'll probably rub elbows with people who were in the exact same position you were right now, or where you're at right now. And you can say hi, you can pick their brains, and better yet, you can make friends with them. And, that can go a long way when it comes to getting work in the real world. I find a lot of my jobs that I ended up getting working on set on films was because I showed up one day and I got lucky through friend of a friend and I got on a set. And once that happened, I talked to people, I worked with them, and we got along. I did my work. I showed up on time. All that good stuff. And, my soup is done. Be a good human, good worker, and that will take you so far. People will think of you next time they're looking to put together a project, or if they know somebody who's hiring, or if they themselves are hiring. I wish I could have more advice, though, as to what kinds of jobs you could have, but they are out there, and they're definitely probably going to be more in the academic realm, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Pet Portraits by Jennifer comments saying, I work a full-time office job during the week, and I do pet portraits on the weekends. When people at work see my work, mostly because I've done portraits for a few coworkers, I always get the statement, you should really do something with your art. Well, I am thought. Oh my goodness. I've been there. No, that's, you know what? They mean well when they say that. That's kind of their way of saying, you're really good at what you're doing. I think too often there's this misconception that if you're good at something, and I left a comment on this comment on the previous video, but there's this thought that if you're going to be a good artist, or if you're a successful artist, that you are famous and well known and your work is in galleries. Or if you're a successful musician, your songs are heard on the radio. Or if you're a successful actor or filmmaker, we've seen your movies in theaters in the Midwest. And that's not necessarily the case. Living in Los Angeles, I've witnessed firsthand, there's a lot of friends of mine who are actors. You wouldn't know their names, but they get jobs in commercials, in small productions, in pilots, all sorts of things. And they're, consistently working. They have families, they have homes, and that's what they're doing. But they're not, I think, what the layperson would consider a success. And so, yeah, I think that's just your coworkers saying, oh, gee, she's really good. Like, she should be doing something else. I think, like, part of that, too, is the cliche of the artist who's trapped in a day job. And one day they'll break free and just make art. But if you're content where you're at, if you're content with a job that supports you and enables you to have a home and feed yourself and to entertain yourself, all that good stuff, then, why feel bad about where you're at? You're happy where you're at. You're fine. So yeah, I feel for you though. I do. You are doing something with your art. Something very generous too, doing portraits for other people and people you love. Like that's the purest form of art. Naomi commented saying, I have a question. I'm thinking about making a new channel and making speed paints and speed drawings, but I don't know if my art will even compare to other videos like that on YouTube. Should I maybe? By the way, I really like your art videos. Thank you. Sorry, I'm drinking my water. It's the end of the day and my voice is going. I would say go for it. Just put it out there. And here's why. With the internet, this beautiful technology, you can share your stuff to the world, to everybody. I mean, this is how I'm making my living. I don't think I could be doing what I'm doing without the internet, because what I'm doing is with the internet. So yeah, and you're at this really cool point where there's no stakes. There's no stakes whatsoever. I think it would be more intimidating if you started a YouTube channel with 10,000 subscribers right off the bat. You would, there'd be that expectation to hold something amazing up. But you're beginning. And if that's something you want to do, then do it. I will say you're going to be really embarrassed about your first videos. I am about some of mine. And that's totally fine. That's a part of the process. If you feel like making them private in a few years and taking them down, you have that power. Personally, I'm going to try not to. I'm going to keep things up for posterity and be honest about that, because we all grow. We all evolve and change and shift as we learn new things or try new things. So, I would say just go for it. Just go for it and work it out. Think of it like this. Have you ever looked back at your old school photos, like your picture from last year, but then like your picture from 3 years ago or 4 or 5? You look at those and sometimes some people, especially, you'll see your hair or like your shirt. I look at childhood photos from like, oh God, when I was in 8th grade, I wore the biggest, like those wide-legged pants, like those Jinko jeans. Oh my God. It was so awful. But that was the style that I elected as a conscious being to wear in public in front of my friends and peers, thinking that they would think I was cool. And they probably did, because their judgment was just as awful as mine. So everything in hindsight, when it comes to stuff like that, it's going to look bad. You're going to look back at your first videos like they were an ugly hairstyle. And that's just a part of the process. So I would recommend, get over it and use those videos to improve. Use those videos to get better at making your own art. Yeah, you have nothing to lose at this point. Nothing to lose and everything to gain. Andrea commented saying, how do you paint over your ink when you color a drawing? I've tried it out a couple times, but my ink always bleeds into my painting and it ends up being a black blob. Please help. Andrea, yeah, I wanted to respond to this comment, but I wasn't able to reply because those Google Plusy thingies, whatever. So to answer your question, what I do is I wait for that ink to dry. I wait for it to completely dry. And that's the secret. That's the key to everything pretty much. As I've said before, when I do the time-lapse videos, there's a lot of editing. The footage is sped up, so there's parts that aren't quite shown to look more magical. I consciously do that. I know. I'll admit it. I'm a bit of a shyster, a trickster, an illusionist, and but that's what I love about video. I love using that medium. In reality, I wait for that ink to dry. And a good way to test that it's dry is to just tap your finger on it. And if you have any ink left on your finger, then you got to give it a little more time to dry. Once it is dry, though, it won't bleed. And I'm assuming that you're using India ink, which is a black liquid ink that you can get in jars. If you're using a ballpoint pen, then you need to make sure that your pen says waterproof on the side of it. I know Uniball is a great brand. They have waterproof, bleed-proof inks. But sometimes, cheaper desk pens that you have every day, the ink might bleed a little bit, even when it's settled and set in. So, just make sure that your ink is waterproof or a nice solid India ink. And if you're using India ink, make sure that it's dry before you paint over it, and you should have no problem with it. Victoria left a comment saying, "Hey, Mary, awesome video as usual." Thank you. I have a question for you, but first, I agree with you about the issue of talent. Basically, that you can be born with more of a desire to draw, and you make your own talent from there. Now, my question, I've been drawing in some shape or form. I've been drawing in some shape or form from when I could hold a crayon. I can't talk tonight. Oh my goodness. About 18 years ago. Until recently, I was very focused on realism and I got good at it. At least that's what they tell me. I like watercolor, although I've always used it. I like acrylic. The problem is I hate it. I like watercolor, although I've always used it like acrylic. You've used watercolor like acrylic. Got it. The problem is I hate it. I'm sorry. I get so caught up on making it look real, I forget to enjoy it. Because of this, I've been trying to loosen up, enter the realms of stylized, find my own style, but I'm struggling with the rule breaking, even though I know those rules very well. Any advice for someone struggling with this transition like me? Yeah, that's a very good question that I did not do a good job of reading, so I apologize for that. Changing up your style and your habits, that's really what it is. It's your habits, is a tricky thing to do. And part of that is just going to be a matter of drawing and painting in a different style repeatedly. Do you really want to change your style? I guess would be the big question. If you're enjoying realism, then paint and draw with realism. If you enjoy acrylic more than watercolor, then paint with acrylic. I can't help you with that. I do some acrylic paintings, but I'm much more comfortable with watercolor. I feel like I'm in my element there. But, do what you want to do and what you want to work with. That said, if you're trying to transition out of a style, which I think many artists go through, I've certainly been through that, then that really does just take a matter of building new habits and practicing different styles. And it's going to suck. It's almost going to feel like you're taking 5 steps back from where you were. Also, doing the stylist thing can be a little tricky as far as gauging how well you're doing. With realism, you always have that standard to hold up your work to. You know, you look at something and say, does this look realistic? Does it look like the photo I used as a reference? Or, you know, do your friends think, oh, that looks incredibly realistic? You know, anybody can tell you whether or not it's good. When you have something stylized, then it's more of your own call and then your audience's opinion as to whether or not they like that style or if it works for them. So, you know, it's a little bit trickier, but yeah, I would recommend practice doing that new style and break out of those habits and tell yourself that it's okay. Because part of the habits, you know, the habit is in the hand and the way you draw and paint, but it's also in your head. And you need to remind yourself that it's okay, that it doesn't look quite like what you've been doing in the past. Next question from Crafty Lori. What's your video editor? I've been using Adobe Premiere for the last few years. I grew up on Final Cut Pro, and then I transitioned to Adobe because at the time I was working with a couple other editors who were picking up slack and helping me to edit some videos, and they used Premiere. So I switched over to that, and it's been fun. I don't like having to pay the fee. It's like a monthly subscription thing. So if Adobe can, you know, find a way for me to just pay one flat rate, that would be cool. I feel like I'm paying too much. Whatever, man. There's also some free editors out there, and YouTube's got some free editing online. So if you're interested in learning to edit, there's much less expensive versions. I'm very comfortable with this program here. And I'm going to end this with a comment from Coffee Cup Goodness. What do you do when you're completely unmotivated? I keep trying to light a fire under my butt, but it doesn't seem to be working lately. For that, last year I was doing the daily doodles, which was great. It was a promise to myself and others that I would draw a picture daily. It didn't have to be a big final pretty picture. It could be a doodle or a scribble or anything. So if you set a goal for yourself, something like that, especially a daily image, you know, that gets you moving no matter what. Random word generator, if you do a Google search for that, pull up a random word and then force yourself to do a drawing based on that, works wonderfully. Also, keep folders on your computer or in real life of images that you really like and encounter as you're going through the internet, or, you know, if you see a really cool looking business card or flyer at a coffee shop, you know, grab that. Store it somewhere where you can find it, something that is inspiring to you, and keep those in the back of your head. So when you're at a loss for what to make, you know, you just look at those and hopefully they'll fire you up again. Wow, this was a shorter version of the real-time videos, but thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this series, and I'll be bringing you more real-time videos as well as the tutorials on very specific parts of drawing and painting. Yeah, so go ahead, leave your comments and your questions and your suggestions, and you can tweet me at Mary Doodles, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching. I will catch you later. Outro song. Meow, meow, meow. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, meow, meow. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. That was the drums.